In this video, we're going to be using Stirling Triumph and the Broman single edge razor. Stay tuned. Hey there folks, and welcome back for another video. I'm your host CDB. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited today because I'm using one of my favorite brands once again, Stirling. I get such an exceptional lather every time I use Stirling. It is, man, it's just awesome stuff. And this one smells great. This is Triumph. It's based on Paco Rabanne's Invictus. I'll show you the notes right there. And man, let me tell you, beautiful, beautiful scent on this one. I love it. Scent strength is medium. You know the cost is outstanding. $13.75 for 5.8 ounces or $2.37 an ounce on our cost chart, which is exceptional. And this is a tallow-based soap. We'll show you the ingredients right there. Really looking forward to using this today. And it's been a long time since we've used this razor because I sent it out on a pass around. It's been gone for about a year. It only made a couple of stops, but it finally returned to me. This is the Broman single edge razor out of the UK. I don't know if they're making these anymore because I haven't seen any on their website for a long time. Anyway, this uses half DE blades. That piece of plastic sort of flips down, and we're going to load a feather blade in it. When I bought it, it was 35 British pounds, or that's about $48 now US. I think at the time the rate, the pound to dollar rate was a little better. I don't think it was quite as much at that time. But anyway, when you load a blade in it like that, you swing the mechanism up and you're ready to go. And you do see a little bit, you can see those bends a little bit right there. So you would have to be careful with, I don't know if you can see that or not, but the tabs do push out a little bit, but I'm not particularly worried about that, and I've never had any problem with it. It comes with a stand like so. And also this part opens up. See if I can show you. If I can get it open. It's kind of hard to open sometimes. And some blades come in it. Blades did come with it. Came with a little case here too. So we look forward to using this today. Again, this was around $48.62. It was 50 some dollars to my door. And tomorrow we'll compare this to the Twig and just see how they do side by side. You know I love the Twig. This one is a very, very mild razor if memory serves. Okay. Let's get into it. Too much yapping, not enough action. We have about 24 hours growth today. This is just plain water. And of course, I will remind you, links for the products used today will be below, including our Captain's Choice Copper Bowl, which is my favorite. The brush for today is the Polar Shaving G4. I got this on Amazon, around 20 some bucks, 24 millimeter synthetic knot. And look at the lather there. And look at the volume of lather. I used about the same amount of Stirling than I did Holy Call the other day, and much more volume. And look at that. Look at the sheen on that. It's nuts. Stirling quality is nuts for what you're paying. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell Stirling. We don't want them to raise the price. No, actually, we know that's the, look at that. This is why I talk about Stirling all the time. For me, it's a perfect combination. It works so well, and I'm able to get great lathers out of it so easily relative to almost any other soap. Shannon's does it similarly, A&E similarly. In terms of ease of use though, Stirling and Shannon's are at the top of my list. A&E produces a very good quality lather similar to this in terms of the sheen and creaminess, but it's a little bit, you have to add water, and I think it probably takes a little more water. In fact, if you don't add enough, A&E requires more water, I would say, which is good because it's going to be slick. But I can tell you right now, the ease of use on this is it's just incredible. All right, let me set that aside. Hopefully that sheen comes across. As I said the other day on a video, sometimes that sheen doesn't really come across. And I think the camera software sort of cuts back on glare. But I'm telling you right now, you see Stirling so often because it's just great stuff. It runs with anything as far as I'm concerned. And I stand by that statement. Okay, here we go. Broman. It does pivot a little bit there. But you don't really have to have it pivot if you don't want to. Just a slight pivot. And it feels very, very mild. And again, I'm not sure if they're even making this razor. For a time, it was for sale and they weren't shipping to the US. And then later, it just said out of stock, and I've never seen any more in stock, and it's been about a year. So I don't know if this razor is still in production. If you do know, let me know below. And I know some people reached out to Broman and they said they never heard back, never got a reply. So their website is still up, but I don't know if they're still producing this razor. It's not a bad razor. It gives you a nice, mild shave. You might have to buff a little bit, but it's fairly enjoyable to use. Now on my head, I didn't like it quite as much as the Leaf, but then again, this one is using 1/2 D blade, and at the time I compared it with the Leaf using 3 because, that's the way the razors are designed, If I put 1 blade in the Leaf, I might have gotten a similar result. It just feels mild. You're not going to feel much blade feel on this razor. So if you're someone who just needs to have blade feel, or that's your preference, it's not going to be quite as enjoyable for you, perhaps. But then again, I don't know if you can get the razor anyway, so, I don't even know if it's still being made. It does cut, though. It just feels, you don't feel much in the way of blade. And for me, I like a little blade feel, so this is always going to be slightly out of my preference wheelhouse because you just don't feel much blade, but I think it does. I think it does actually cut well. So, there is that. Let's reapply and go for pass 2. One of the things I want to mention today is, especially if you're new to the channel, the name of the game in traditional shaving is progressive beard reduction. And I've done a video on that for the razor company. I don't know if it's aired yet, but it's not about trying to get it all in one pass. A gentleman reached out to me, and I won't name him because I didn't ask for permission to name him, but he reached out to me and said he'd had a lot of problems with nicks and cuts, and he's been traditional shaving for a long time. And I actually got a chance to look at his video, and immediately I noticed he was doing a lot of buffing right out of the gate, and he did 1 pass. And traditional shaving is really not that. It is about mapping your growth. And so the traditional passes are with the grain, across the grain, and against the grain. So you're not trying to do it all at one time like we used to do with carts. That was part of the reason we used to get poor shaves and nicks and cuts with carts, is we tried to do it all with 1 pass. Traditional shaving is about slowing down, taking a little bit off with each pass, until ultimately, and hopefully, getting a really nice shave, free of irritation, cuts, nicks, and so on, by doing it gradually versus trying to just get in there and get it all in 1 pass. No. There are folks like Don Youngner from Wet the Face who does 1 pass. But for me, my recommendation is take your time, enjoy your shaves. Do multiple passes in the traditional style. So my first pass was with the grain. Now my neck is different. We'll get into that at a later date. But first pass was with the grain. Second pass here, we're going across the grain. And your grain pattern may vary, so you really have to map your beard growth. That is, figure out which way it grows in the various parts of your face. And once you do that, you can sort of attack it from different angles. But be careful not to do a lot of buffing and short strokes like this right out of the gate, especially in your sensitive areas. That can lead to nicks, cuts, creepers, weepers, irritation. Try to start out, especially if you're new, with longer strokes like so, which is easier on your face than those short choppy strokes. Now you will see me doing short choppy strokes, don't get me wrong. But typically I try to do strokes a little bit longer there. You see, that's not a super short choppy stroke. I will do some. This right here, when you're doing this, that's called buffing. And that's sort of an aggressive form of shaving. And we do incorporate that into our shaving technique, but that's something we usually save for, say, towards the end, where you feel like you need to get closer in some areas. If all your strokes are short, choppy, and buffing like, you're shaving pretty aggressively, and that might be lending itself to irritation, nicks, cuts, so on and so forth. You'll notice, if you've been watching my channel any amount of time, I typically don't have a lot of nicks, cuts, or irritation. If I do, it's usually a technical flaw, or maybe I've cut a bump on my face or something like that, which That's not really a flaw in technique. That's just, if you have a raised spot on your face, you're going to cut it with a sharp blade. But if you notice there on those strokes, I was going all the way across. And then sometimes I'll follow it up. There is good residual slickness with Stirling, so I can do that. But my recommendation, do your strokes easily and smoothly to start without a whole lot of buffing early on. And you can, I can feel that I need to go over these spots, right? But I'm not doing it right out of the gate. All right, I'm saving some of this for the next pass and the next pass. So if after pass 3 or on pass 3, I'm feeling I still have work to do, I'll incorporate some buffing in there. So just keep that in mind. Traditional shaving for most people, again, Don Youngner's sort of the exception in that, where he lathers one time and he does his pass in and he buffs and buffs and buffs. That's, most people don't do it that way. You might be able to get good results that way, but my recommendation, do your 3 passes. Slow down, enjoy the experience. I mean, especially if you're a hobbyist, just slow down and enjoy it. That's really what it's about. And look at the, man, this is a well-hydrated lather and it's nuts. And I used the same amount of soap that I used with Holy Call and got at least twice the volume. And honestly, the quality of this lather is just tremendous. You could see it. I hope it's coming through. It's super slick. It feels great on my face. It's not drying out my skin. Look at that. See what, it's just hanging there. Oh man, it's just, I could use this stuff every day and it wouldn't bother me. It's just so easy to use. This is just, it's phenomenal. And it works so wonderfully for me. That's why I talk about it all the time. And such a great value. You don't really have to charge a ton to make a great quality soap. Some people do, and they include all the skin food ingredients in it. And for your use case, if that hits the spot, great. But for me, this is where it's at. These type of, look at that lather. And I put the same effort into both lather. Actually, I had to work a little bit harder with the Holy Call, because I do think what happens, this is just my opinion and people are free to disagree, and some will, of course. What I think has happened over the years is the inclination for soap makers to include skin foods and increase the price as well has made some of the soaps more difficult to lather and more difficult in some cases to create volume with. And so now they want to just pile all those skin foods and butters in there, which is a great thing if you need it for your skin. But if you don't, it could be a liability, in terms of making a lather easily without having to, work too hard. And for some people, all those heavy butters, it can also have an adverse effect. If you don't get all that off your skin, it can cause breakouts and so on and so forth. And so just be mindful of that. More skin food doesn't automatically mean better. Man, that's slick. Whew. But for me, a soap like this is always going to be my preference. If you have really, really dry skin, some of the skin foods might actually be helping you, and that might be well for your use case. Again, I always want to caveat use case. And now in this pass, what we'll do is we'll definitely, if we feel we need to do additional work, we'll start buffing. And, every now and then you feel a spot and you'll buff it maybe on pass 2 or something. But if you're new, be mindful of not doing too much. Or even if you're not new, and you're constantly getting cuts and creepers and weepers, most likely something needs to change. I would say. All right. As you can see there, no problems there. Boy, there's a lot of residual slickness left there. Wow. If you lather Stirling in a way that gets the best out of it, it is incredibly slick. And as you can see, there's no visible lather there, but that's just moving so effortlessly. That's just fantastic. Fantastic. Super happy about that. By the way, the materials, I forgot to mention this razor. It's like a cast zinc, like, you know, pot metal sort of thing. And the Broman here feels very, very mild. This is going to feel like, maybe something like a Henson on the mild setting, something like that. You're just not going to feel a lot of blade. And for me, I would like to feel more. If this had more blade feel to it, I would be much, much happier with it. But I feel like I need to do more work and buffing and so on, because it's just, for me, not a super efficient razor. You can get a good shave with it, don't get me wrong. If your technique is on point, you can get a really great shave with most things, I think, my personal opinion. But it does require a little extra effort with a razor like this that's so mild. But I do think it's a, you know, it's kind of a neat concept. And it does work. But it requires just a little bit of extra effort for me. Very, very slick, this soap. Stirling. Again, if you're not getting slickness out of Stirling, it's likely you're probably not getting enough hydration in it, and you might have to work until you do. For me, it's easy, and I'm not saying for you it will be, you know, but I can only talk about things from my perspective. And now we're doing some touching up here because this is a very mild razor. Very mild indeed. And if you feel some areas, like say right there, you know, you could definitely, that's a buffing stroke right there where you're, you know, but I'm recommending that you not start out of the gate with that buffing, because that's pretty aggressive. That's an aggressive shaving technique. All right. We've had a good shave. Razor is mild. It's kind of hard to, one of the things that blade feel does is it gives you another level of feedback, and this one just doesn't provide much. So you might have to do a little extra work with this razor. But once again, I don't even know if this razor is still being made. So tomorrow we'll compare it with the Twig and see how it goes. The Twig does have more blade feel, so, you know, right out of the gate, I think I'm going to prefer the Twig just because it gives me that feedback that I really like. All right, let us rinse and then we'll come back, get into the post. Stay tuned. And all right, we are back and off cam. We did a warm water rinse to remove the soap. Then we applied the alum, really, really nice, no stinging whatsoever. Then we did a cold water rinse, and then we followed it by drying off with the Lancaster towel. Then, of course, we used the Magic Made by Witches. This is Thayer's Witch Hazel Cucumber, just in a spray bottle. And I'm telling you, nice, smooth shave. This is a very, very mild razor, even with the feather blade. So it's, if you're someone who just wants mild feel, or excuse me, if you want blade feel, a lot of it, or a very efficient razor, this one is not going to be for you. Most likely, I'll tell you right now. But you can get a good shave with it, despite it being mild. We used the Stirling Triumph, and I crowed about it the whole video, so not much more I need to say about that. We used our Polar G4 brush. And we shall finish it off today with Stirling for him. I don't know if they have this available anymore. It's just a nice, easygoing scent. And I'm hoping that you all will have a terrific day, because you know I am, because I've had a great shave. And there's no better way to start your day than after having luxuriated and having a phenomenal shave. Take your time, folks. Enjoy the shave. Also, enjoy life. Thanks so much for joining me. Until next time, I've been your host, CDB, reminding you it's your shave. Do it your way. And as always, God bless.